Now, one of the big topics that you are really bringing to the surface for a lot of people, though many are focused on it, is abortion rights in the country and around the world. And you've been such a stalwart leader on women's rights for so many decades. But I want to know, were you impacted personally as a mother, a grandmother, when you saw the news of Dobbs being overturned, and over the last year as you've seen these rights be rolled back even further?
You know, Jen, I, like a lot of women, have been very upset by the Dobbs decision, which I think is a poorly written and poorly argued decision, which has so many implications even beyond abortion, since it basically tried to eliminate the right to privacy, which, in my view, underscores so many of our other rights. So I was upset by that. But I was also really troubled that the idea that this court would make such a decision under, in many ways, false pretenses because of the way it was reasoned, and then throw it back to the states with the belief that they had, which, you know, led to the states beginning to make their own decisions. Okay. But I also thought about, you know, my granddaughter and my daughter and women and girls that I know around the country. And it just left me disturbed that so much of the progress that has been made on so many fronts over the last 50, 60 years, advancing human rights, women's rights, gay rights, giving people a feeling that they are full participants in this country that we, you know, all love and share, and that we keep trying to make a more perfect union, was, you know, deeply distressing. So the good news is that everywhere people have been able to vote on what happened with the Dobbs decision, they have voted for women's ability to make our own decisions. And, you know, I hasten to add, that is not pro or anti any decision. That is trusting women and those closest to women to make the best decisions. And we've begun to hear a lot of stories about women being denied necessary medical care, because it's part of a full range of healthcare services. So I think I, like the majority of Americans, based on both votes we've had and any polling I've seen, really disagree with what the Supreme Court did.
Now, despite this rollback of rights and the fight against it, you're a very politically savvy person in addition to many other things. The polling right now for 2024 for the presidential race is tied. Is that something that surprises you or worries you?
No, it doesn't yet. I mean, we're a long way out, and I think there is, you know, a kind of you know, looking and almost shopping mentality in voters. Like, oh, who am I going to have to vote for? And wait a minute, I'm not happy with that. They're never happy with what the choices are. You know, I've seen that for many years.
The purple unicorn.
The
elusive purple unicorn.
Exactly. And so honestly, I think that the issues will not be joined for quite some time. And I feel good about where the Democrats are and where President Biden and Vice President Harris are, because, you know, and I think Biden is the one who says this all the time: don't judge me against the almighty, judge me against the alternative. And I have been very clear in saying I am for the Biden-Harris ticket because of what they've accomplished, which I value and I think is making a big difference in helping us shape our future. But I'm also for them because the alternative is so dangerous. And I think people will begin to pay more attention as time goes by.
When you mentioned the ticket, I mean, you have fought against more sexism in public than anyone, probably, globally, from Vladimir Putin to right-wing Republicans, the gamut. You know, there has been more talk, at least in my time in politics, about questioning whether the vice president should be on the ticket. I know what I think that's about, but I want to know what you think that's about.
Well, I think it's about, you know, a number of things. I think vice presidents are either never thought about or they're an afterthought, and it's a tough position to be in, no matter who you are. But I also think that she's a first. I mean, she's the first woman. She's the first woman of color. She's the first daughter of immigrants. I mean, you can go on down the list. And so there will definitely be a lot more scrutiny than is usual for a vice president who I dare say most people couldn't even name in many of the administrations going back to the beginning. So honestly, again, I think she's done a much better job than she gets credit for. I think that she has proven to be a good partner for the president. And this is a decision that belongs to the president, whoever the president is. I remember when I chose Tim Kaine to be my running mate. He had been a successful governor. He had been a successful senator. I thought, here is somebody who could literally step into the job, which to me is a very important criterion, but who also, you know, had a great reputation as a colleague, working with people. Oh, you know, some people said he's not this, he's not that. But he was my choice. And so at the end of the process, it's the president's choice. And I think that he made a good choice.
As obviously your friend and mine.
Yes, indeed. Right.
It's not.
Well, I think we should be talking about it more because I don't think, despite all of the, deniers, there's any doubt that he interfered in our election or that he has interfered in many ways in the internal affairs of other countries, funding political parties, funding, political candidates, buying off, government officials in different places. So that is his opus. His opus operandi in the sense that he hates democracy. He particularly hates the West, and he especially hates us. And he has determined that he can do two things simultaneously. He can try to continue to damage and divide us internally, and he's quite good at it. And sadly, he has a lot of apologists and enablers in our own country, people who either don't see the danger or dismiss it out of hand, or maybe agree with some of the positions he's taken on certain things, including his barbaric invasion of Ukraine. And so dividing us and then trying to seize territory in such a brutal way to try to expand his reach, to try to restore the Russian Empire, if not the former Soviet Union, that is who he is. I said that for years. Part of the reason he worked so hard against me is because he didn't think that he wanted me in the White House. So we are where we are, and part of the challenge is to continue to explain to the American public that the kind of leader Putin is, this authoritarian dictator who literally kills his opposition, kills journalists, poisons people who disagree with him, invades other country, interferes with our election. That is part of the alternative we have to reject in this election. We have to reject authoritarianism. We have to reject a kind of creeping fascism almost of people who are really ready to turn over their thinking, their votes, to wannabe dictators, and we can't allow that to proceed. So I think it's fair to say that you have a tough job because you have to talk about what's happening in the news, but you also have to keep people's eyes on what's right behind the horizon. And I fear that the Russians have proved themselves to be quite adept at interfering, and if he has a chance, he'll do it again.
Another person whose skin you've gotten under is Donald Trump, of course, who is facing 4 indictments, as we know. He recently said that it would be very unlikely that he would attempt to pardon himself. Do you believe him?
I don't believe him on anything. Why would I start believing him on that? The thing about him, and I'm not the only person who's noticed this, is he engages in what psychologists call projection. So whenever he accuses somebody else of doing something, it's almost guaranteed he's doing it himself or he's already done it. Or whenever he denies thinking about doing something or doing it, it's almost guaranteed he is thinking about it or he's already done it.
No, fair enough. You have talked in the past, and you are a lawyer, among many other things. There's going to be a process that plays out. Of course, there are many options here. But there are many people in this country who want to see him held accountable. Do you think, you're a private citizen, that if he is convicted, he should go to prison?
You know, I'm not going to substitute my judgment for the judicial system. You know, as you say, there are 4 cases, I think 91 counts in those 4 cases. I'm not in the midst of evaluating, you know, the evidence. I don't know what's going to happen. I'm not sure when they will even get to trial. And if they get to trial, how long appeals will take, because we know that he will drag it out as long as possible. So I want to just support the idea of accountability because that is what's important, that nobody is above the law, and there's no reason why any of us should object to a process that is being played out in the public arena as these cases are.
Before I let you go, there's now been a date set for the impeachment hearings, so-called, I'm going to put them in quotes, for President Biden. There's a disagreement in the Democratic Party on how to deal with this because there's no proof. They're in pursuit of a reason. What do you think they should be doing?
Well, first of all, I don't know how they can proceed with an impeachment if they haven't had a vote. And maybe I missed it because I've been so busy here at CGI
trying to
well,
you've been inspired,
positive, and come up with solutions to our problems, which is what I like to think about. So I don't know how they're just basically blowing off the process. There's no there, and in fact, it seems they know there's no there, and sadly, the Speaker of the House is too weak to stand up against the most rabid, block of his members who don't care what the truth or the facts are. They just want to, be able to grandstand and try to cause President Biden problems. I mean, it's not a real threat. It's a terrible bother. But more than that, it is a real confession by the Republican Party. They have no agenda. They have no interest in trying to bring people together to solve problems. I have said for years, because I was in the Senate when I voted for immigration reform, as a majority of the Senate did, and George W. Bush said he would sign it, and the House wouldn't take it up, because they don't want a solution to what's happening on the border. They want a political problem that they can try to use for their own benefit. That's what this is, to keep, the base, whoever that is, in some parts of our country all riled up while they make up stuff that has no basis in fact. It is no way to run a great country, and the only way we're going to get through this, Jen, is by defeating them. People say to me all the time, well, what can we do? And I say, well, you can vote. And they go, well, what else? I said, that's the most important thing.
That's the one.
That's it. You get up there and you vote, and you vote for people who actually want to get things done and don't traffic in lies and falsehoods and hatred and divisiveness. That's what you can do to help our country.